Thanks for the donut.
You're welcome.
So this is an old... Did you do this while you were on the air?
Well, pretty much. I usually ate because, on the morning show, it was so early, and I got up and had coffee, or stopped at a gas station on the way and got coffee. So at work, somebody always brought in bakery. A listener, one of the other staff that came in early, we always had crap in there. Always. It was amazing I didn't weigh 300 pounds, quite frankly. I mean, really, I'm lucky I have some good metabolism.
I think you probably move a little too much for that.
Well, that could be. What do you mean?
Man, it's so good to see you, though.
Oh, good to see you, too.
You're
so clean-shaven.
I know.
Are you staying that way nowadays?
I have been. Yeah. I don't know why. But yeah, I've been clean-shaven pretty regularly now for a few months. It feels good.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
I do, too. On me. I've been clean-shaven, too, for a while. As you get older, you'll find, Samantha will begin to grow the hair. Not anytime soon, but, after menopause. And you'll start to lose even more.
Okay.
Pretty soon your legs will be, you won't have to shave them. They'll just be almost hairless.
So we switch places.
Yeah, in some ways. The hairy way. Men lose it and women grow it. And not in places they want to.
Yeah, the hand we're dealt.
Actually, was looking at beard oil one day at Target. I thought maybe instead of getting rid of it all, I should just
embrace it.
Work with it and embrace it.
That was something.
Shine it up a little.
You always told me that. You always told me that you were jealous of the ability to be able to grow a beard and cut a beard.
I've loved beards and mustaches since I was a little kid. I don't know why.
Yeah.
My dad didn't have one. When he tried to grow one, he looked real, kind of swarthy, or I don't know. He just didn't look good. He looked kind of scary because he had a dark complexion.
Okay.
And for some reason, and kind of what they used to call a ruddy complexion.
Ruddy?
Which, kind of like reddish tones, and really, his beard grew really fast, his whiskers.
Okay.
So but when he grew a beard, he sort of looked like a gorilla. Yeah, with a beard.
So he stayed away from
gorillas don't have beards, but he, for some reason, looked like one.
I mean, but if a gorilla did have a beard.
Yeah, if a gorilla had a beard, he'd look like my dad.
Yeah.
God bless him. Just kidding around, Dad. I love you. I do. Anyway.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it makes you look really young.
I've been told. I think it makes me look thinner, too.
I was actually going to ask you if you lost weight.
Yeah.
Because I can see your cheekbones, and you really have a nice, fine features.
Well, thank you.
I've never really noticed before.
Yeah. I was telling Samantha, I giggled about it. There was probably, this was a month or two ago. There was a week span where 3 people asked me if I had lost weight. And it was probably the first time each of those people had saw me since I had been clean shaven for a while. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's just got to stick around, It's take it when you can get them.
That's awesome.
You brought a donut.
Yeah, sorry.
Immediately before this donut, I had ice cream. So
my other favorite.
I'm just double sugaring it, and still people are asking if I'm looking thin. So
what's your favorite ice cream?
Oh, right now we're on this kick of from Fresh Time. Actually, I know you like Fresh Time. The brand is, I think it's called Hudsonville, and it is chocolate brownie cookie dough, and
the trifecta.
It's immaculate.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Chocolate brownie cookie dough,
and it's nice because the brownies and the cookie dough aren't too chalky. Sometimes you get those ice creams that they're chalky.
Yes,
this one is great. The chocolate ice cream is nice and really wispy and kind of thin. Oh, it's good.
That sounds like one I'd like to stir up. Stir it all up together, kind of make it a malt texture, and then sort of, I like to do that.
Let it melt a little bit and get spoonfuls of almost shake.
Yeah.
Salivating.
I've actually kind of leaned a little away from ice cream these days.
Okay.
Just because sometimes dairy just doesn't always set well with me. Mm-hmm. So I've been into frozen yogurts that really now taste like ice cream. Not like the kind they first came out with 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When you were in the cradle. But the kind that you probably, got spoon-fed them a little bit once in a while.
Yeah.
And it's called, I think, it's got black cherries in it.
Okay.
It's black cherry something frozen yogurt, and it's really good. Although I always like the ones with chocolate and cookie dough and caramel and all that in them too. There's really not an ice cream or an ice cream like thing. I still eat ice cream, but not on a regular basis. Like we've been eating drumsticks at our house lately. Yeah.
Nice.
The sugar cone,
Yep.
the ice cream, and now they put caramel in the middle or fudge in the middle of the ice cream, and then really nice chocolate
What a
and then
great
nuts on
summer
the
treat,
top.
too.
Yeah. Now I'm really getting hungry.
So, like Smart Cow then? Do you guys ever go to Smart Cow?
No.
No?
If I'm going to eat ice cream, I eat ice cream.
Because
Smart
Smart Cow's
Cow's-
frozen yogurt, right?
Yeah, maybe it is, but it's supposed to be less. I mean, it's supposed to be good for you, I think.
Probably
but
relative.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't, I like it. I thoroughly enjoy it. I just don't go because, like, they have a perfect, like, business model. Like, they have two different size.
I was confused.
Cups.
Yes, now I know what you're
Oh, you're
talking
thinking
about.
about
Smart
Cold
Cow.
Stone.
Yes,
You're
I'm
thinking about
Smart
Cold
Cow.
Stone.
I got you. Got you.
So, Smart Cow, they've got the different size cups. And, like,
I do too. Isn't that weird?
yeah.
We have something in common.
Nobody's symmetrical.
Sorry.
They and by the time you get through just the ice cream wall, then you get your toppings and you have like $11 worth of ice cream. They get you every
Yeah.
single time.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
good though.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about gelato? You ever do gelato?
No, not really. Everybody says it's delicious and yummy, and I just every time I look at it and look at the texture of it, I just kind of go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm very sensory, and that just looks like it might feel funny in my mouth for some reason. I'll try it one day.
Yeah.
But I just haven't. I've been satisfied with my frozen yogurt and ice cream.
Nice.
So I haven't felt the need to try another branch of that whole thing.
Yeah.
But I will someday, just for you.
All right, and then you'll think of me.
I
when you
will.
do it.
Yes, I will.
You probably that's like probably a prerequisite to post retirement, right? Is like mid-afternoon ice cream socials. Like, isn't that
Sort of.
Is that a thing?
You know what? No, actually, this is a thing
Mid-afternoon coffee.
with like pie or a cookie or donut. I don't often do donut. I don't have donuts at home, but I do sometimes have pie or a brownie. So it's about 2:30, 3, because I eat lunch sometimes about 11:30. You know, by noon for sure, because I eat breakfast at like 6:30.
Yep.
So I can't, to make it to dinner time, I got to have a mid-afternoon snack and a little touch of this to get me through so I can watch Netflix all night.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Hulu and Prime, till the wee hours. Get out of
I know.
here,
We got a fly in the zone. That's a new one too. It must have came in.
Probably an Iranian spy.
Yep, they're in here. We got a lot of hot takes in here that they're looking for.
Oh, good one.
takes.
Oh, boy.
I know you're a big show watcher. What's been on your list lately?
What was I watching last night? Oh, we got 3 free days of, is it Showtime, I think?
Okay.
So I just started watching a show called, is it Shy? It's CHI. It takes place in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. It's really like this inner city streets of Chicago kind of show. With the language and the culture and everything. So I got about 2.5 episodes in, and I'm kind of hooked. So, and there's like 5 seasons, so it's like, oh crap, this is exactly what they want you to do. Start watching something, get hooked, and then you got to buy it at least for a month to finish off your, series that you started. So
And you'll do it. You'll make the purchase.
I
to
probably
watch?
will.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, I'm justifying it by saying, well, I was going to drop Hulu anyway and pick up Netflix again so I could watch Quarterback because I dropped Netflix before the summer just for a switch, because there's stuff on Hulu I wanted to see. And now I'm kind of running through Hulu a little bit and nothing's jumping out at me anymore. So
Yeah.
I still go back to my old standbys like, Everybody Loves Raymond, King of
I know
Queens.
you like Raymond, yeah.
I still go back to those some nights when I really need to get to sleep. So I put those on because I've seen Everybody Loves Raymond. I've seen every episode at least 10 times.
Yeah.
At least. I can, like most guys can, recite the lines with them. I don't know why, but I've always found guys can do that better than women, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Why guys can recite movie lines, like line for line. They'll say to each other, hey, hit it out of the ballpark. And the other guy goes, yeah, in the 4th zone. And they both laugh. And
Yeah.
you're like, what? You're like, haven't you ever seen Ghostbusters, you know? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know the lines. But why is that? It must be a guy thing. I never hear women do it. Not very often. Not very often.
Especially cult comedy classics.
Yeah.
They like, you will never go golfing with a middle-aged group of dudes and not hear 19 Caddyshack references.
Sure.
Like,
Oh, absolutely. You're out on the golf course.
Yeah.
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 It just lends itself to it. And I stand there and some of the lines are funny without seeing the movie, but I did see that movie. But again, I don't remember it like that. I remembered it was funny.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, you've probably watched it more than how many times too.
Right.
To be able to memorize the lines. Like I said, I've seen all the Raymond episodes at least 10 times each. And that's how I've been able to memorize some of the lines, but not. So I'm wondering, do guys all watch movies that much? Like repeat them? And I'm thinking, yeah, they actually watch replays of like football games. So of course they do.
But so do you.
Well, actually, you know, before I came here, I was watching a little bit just because I was waiting for the time to come, and I was kind of in between. I watched a little bit of the Viking Seahawks game from last night.
Yeah.
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 Just the very beginning. And I thought, what am I doing?
Packers preseason game tonight.
I know.
It's kind of a big one, right? As big as preseason gets.
How are you feeling about? You know, we've had conversations about sports before.
So many.
So
Kathy and I have
many
talked about sports for hours and hours. This will be a big part of what we talk about today.
Oh yeah, goody.
How
are you feeling about the season going in? Like honestly, feeling like, what's your gut tell you?
My gut says we're probably going to be just under 500, something like that. I really, really want Jordan Love to do well. I hope he does.
I'm with you there.
I haven't seen anything yet to point that direction. I hope.
And I guess somebody has, but not us.
Right. But, you know, there's a lot of egos in the NFL. And I think we've learned that over the past couple of years more than...
Yeah, there was a guy that was here that seemed to have a pretty healthy one.
Yeah.
Can't think of his name right now.
And
among many.
We'll talk about that too, because we have different thoughts on Aaron. But I think it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. If it's the ego from the front office that said, this is our guy.
Because we picked him in the first round.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if there's truly something that we haven't seen. Because you never know. I mean, you don't know what to take for full credit from the media now anyway. Like, you never know. It came from a PR machine somewhere.
Right, because we don't have, you know, inside sources that are at practice every day and reporting back to us, you know, except for the people on the radio or whatever, the reporters that are in there.
Yep.
But again, they only see so much.
Right.
And tonight we'll only see so much.
Yeah. What do you think? 3 drives tonight, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. You know, I've been listening a lot to sports radio because that's the kind of radio I like to listen to, besides your podcast, of course. Absolutely number one. How was that?
Not even available yet.
Did I say it right? Did I say it how he told me to?
Yeah.
That's what you told me to say, right?
Yeah, something.
Okay,
like
I knew
Check
it was
the
something.
notes. They're under the table.
Oh crap! That's right. What was I going to say? I forgot. Oh, they said that you know they've asked coaches why do you want these joint practices, because LaFleur was the first coach to bring that into Green Bay. They'd never done that before ever.
Okay.
And then the preseason games, and what they explained, and it kind of made sense to me, is that the joint practices, the veterans actually get a lot of reps. They're actually, you know, getting 20 to 30 reps during a joint practice when they go against each other. But in a preseason game, most of the veterans aren't getting a lot of reps because those games are to see who's going to make the team. You know, I mean, they know who's going to be on the team, so those guys, they don't want to get hurt. But they have to practice anyway, and in the joint practices, they get to get a little bit lathered up and, you know, let a little bit of that out finally.
Sure.
So I thought that kind of made sense. You know what you got in the veterans, but you got to see these guys under the big lights, you know. Some guys are good practice players, and they don't do so well in a game, you know. I mean, just like players who are great players in whatever sport they're in, but it doesn't translate to coaching. Yeah. Not quite the same, but kind of like that. Great practice player, but just doesn't have the juice to or maybe even the mental juice to put it together in a game.
Yeah, there's different levels of people, or a great regular season player that just can't make the jump into a great postseason player.
Yeah, I can think of one. I think it was the same one we were talking about earlier.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. But it certainly, he had performances in the postseason that he could have won. But there are certainly times when he didn't play up to his obvious ability.
Yep. I think probably right now you and I are closer on Aaron Rodgers than we've probably ever been. I've come around a little bit on him.
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah,
I think just because taking stock of my own life and stepping back and leaving the working world and making a big change, I think I can kind of see what was happening there with him. Like he probably should have been gone sooner rather than later.
Yep.
And there wouldn't have been all the bitterness on both sides because, everybody, no matter how good they are or whatever, I mean, look at even we have terms on the presidency, I mean, things come to fruition and they just, at some point they plateau and then they go like this. I mean, I think it was just, I respect him more as a person. I wished he would have handled some things a little differently, but I think the Packers also could have definitely handled things differently.
Yeah.
So I think it's a more of a 50-50 thing there, and the best thing that happened could have.
It's funny you say that because I'm sure we're the closest we've ever been because I've come a little bit to the other way.
Okay. Because
of exactly what you just said. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was the top of the mountain for me.
I know.
And I completely agree with you that I always had the argument that Aaron Rodgers was a very effective leader, and I overlooked some things that weren't effective leadership from his perspective, but I believe they happened because of what you're saying. I think that divorce should have happened earlier. There was too much animosity there. There was too much underlying emotion for either side to do what was right.
Yep.
And the reason it worked out for Aaron is because he's such a stick-it-in-your-face guy. That they said, oh, okay, you're going to draft my replacement. I'm going to do every single thing I can to make you look like an idiot. And he won MVP twice, but that's not leading a team, So
no.
You can understand more what happened when you take a step back from it.
Yep.
I'm super happy for him. Did you, Hard Knocks, do you have HBO at all?
No, I don't. Now I'm like, I've never wanted to watch that. And then I don't want to be that person that watches it just because, as I read in some Facebook posts, it should be called Hard Knocks with Aaron Rodgers.
The first one was all Aaron,
because it was all about Aaron Rodgers. They said, forget the Hard Knocks part. Let's just call it Aaron Rodgers, Hard Knocks.
It was Aaron Rodgers physical footage, and then it was other players talking about how cool it was to play with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Which really, how do you get away from it?
He's a legend. Right. He's a legend. I mean, let's face it. I mean, that's how it's going to be. If it was Tom Brady, which it probably was at one time, didn't they do his? I mean, most of the teams have done it now, right? Or not?
I'm sure they never did New England.
Probably not.
Belichick probably wouldn't.
He probably wouldn't have allowed that
first or something.
Yeah. It would be a distraction, and he doesn't allow that.
Yeah, and think about even that relationship. That relationship came to a head where I'm sure there were more. They're just better at keeping stuff internal, but there was some rocky times between Brady and Belichick. There were. So it was time to go. I wish for both parties involved it would have happened a little bit earlier. Because to have the last couple of years we did was kind of frustrating. Like they didn't give him the tools, and I firmly believe like look at he went there. He's already taken a pay cut, and
all the things we wanted him to do here.
And he went to minicamp. Yeah. Like he went to
that was kind of that hurt a little bit. But again, that's the biggest FU that you can have. Can I say that?
Yeah.
That's the big, okay, good. That's the biggest FU that you can have towards the Packers right there.
Absolutely.
Like, see, if you would have just given me these things, and although we did give him things, let's not forget that. We did give him a lot about what he wanted. They did make concessions, but they kind of had to as well. I mean, that's what happens when you're working with a guy who's a legend and a Hall of Famer. Yeah. What are you going to do, ignore everything he asked for? You can't. Mm-hmm. You can't. You have to give in. I mean, they all have done that, no matter who they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, I think he's going to have a good year. Do I think he's going to make it to the Super Bowl? I really don't. There's just too many talented quarterbacks. But again, maybe somebody gets hurt.
I'd say no.
Maybe Pat Mahomes gets hurt. Maybe I can't even think of all their names now. Maybe somebody else gets hurt.
him, Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen is the other one. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in that.
Burrow already strained his calf. That doesn't look too bad, but it's going to be another fascinating year of the NFL.
I'm just excited to have kind of get back to just being a football team.
Yep.
Having the Green Bay Packers now. And not always it's just Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers. And I thank Aaron Rodgers for giving us a Super Bowl. That's great. It was awesome because I can still lord it over all those Viking fans, especially my family. Yeah. You know, every time they get smart, I go, and how many Super Bowls have you been? How many Super Bowls have you seen your team win? I've seen my team win 2 of them in my lifetime. Yeah.
Dan and I were talking earlier about how, like, when the Lions win, it's kind of like, that's good. Good for you, Lions. But when the Vikings win, it's never good.
No. And now this year, it's going to be both because, I mean, it sounds like Detroit could be. It sounds like our division really, anything could happen. Anybody could win it.
It'd be interesting to see what Fields does, his development. Yep. Lions are explosive on offense. It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, I think so too.
Fun year. Yeah. What about, I know you're a big Brewer watcher. Are you watching this year?
Yeah. It's been kind of frustrating, you know, because they too are right on the edge of something. And again, the Brewers never really go for it as far as doling out the money and trying to get the players they need. They needed bats, so they went and got 2 of them. Yeah, like getting people that bat like 220. Yeah. You know, it's like, well, what? Yeah. I mean, we needed a first baseman, so they had to get one. I think Santana is the one they picked up, but I don't know. I mean, we're going to have all our pitchers back now, and that'll help. But still, I mean, you can win with pitching, but you still have to have some batters, some people that can hit in the runs with RBIs. We just don't have enough of that happening. We get on base. We just don't get into home plate.
It's so hard then to translate pitching success into the postseason because, like, inevitably there's those couple games that your starters go 4 innings and then you got to go to the bullpen early and then you're behind the 8 ball.
And that's happened a few times like that. Yeah. Yeah. Getting all creative with the bullpen and, you know, wearing them out. And then, you know, one week your starting pitchers are awesome and the bullpen sucks and they lose the game. The next week, the starting pitchers are awesome. Then we can't score, you know, and the bullpen is good, but then we can't, every time the Brewers score less than 4 runs, they lose. Yeah. Almost every single time. It's just a thing this year. But I love watching the games for the most part. It's kind of like Packer games. When they frustrate me, I get up and walk away from baseball because, come on, it's like every day. You can't sit there and watch all games every day. Otherwise, you're weird, I guess. Or then I might as well just put on my cap and gain 200 pounds and sit in my chair and
take book at home.
Yep, and take book at home. Was that an error or what would you call that? A base hit or an error?
Yeah. I'm currently on a it's not the Brewers' fault, so I won't call it a Brewer boycott, but I've only watched 1 Brewer game all season.
What's going on with you?
The whole Bally Sports thing.
I know.
It drives me insane.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely insane.
I know. I have to switch my streamers every year so I can watch the game on Bally Sports. And now Bally Sports is, I have to say I never thought I would, but I like it when the games are on YouTube TV. Apple TV. Okay. They have I think they've had like 3 Brewers games now on Apple TV. Okay. Yeah, and their camera work and their just the way it looks.
So are they trying to make a play for those
I think
contracts?
They are. Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah. They have some decent announcing staff there, I mean, from last year when they did it to this year, I've noticed it's better. And actually, as soon as you turn on the game, you're like, oh, wow, look at that. It just looks crisper. The camera shots are much better. They're on top of the replays and stuff quicker. So I don't know. Maybe that's where it's going to end up.
And they have all the resources to throw at it, too.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Because I think it's like 13 MLB teams that were with Bally, right?
Right. And now already how many are off the list? 1 for sure. Where did they lose the contract? Somewhere they did. I can't think of what team it was, but they don't have them on anymore.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know the Brewers wish they could get out of their contract. You know that. It's been such a shit show. Like the price is way too high
Oh yeah,
for Bally.
I totally agree.
Way too high. And then right when it started, I thought about doing it. None of their tech worked. Like I couldn't get literally the week after it went live, I tried to download the Bally Sports app and set it up on my TV. The app wouldn't work. Like I couldn't watch the game. So I was like, I'm going to give you $20 and every month, and it's not going to work.
And not count on seeing the game.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just took a moral stand.
Good for you.
Yeah, good for you.
Well,
Now I
I'm
don't get to watch
hoping
the
that
Brewers.
Bally's out, quite honestly. I'd love someone else to take over. I mean, there are people, I think whoever does take over, I think a lot of the Bally people will get hired because they're not going to come, even if it was Apple TV, they're not going to come into every market and hire all new people to do all this stuff anyway.
Right.
It's just that they'll have probably better equipment, better resources, and use some of the same people.
Better, more defined leadership. And
Yep.
hopefully an IT team that can make their stuff work.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Have there been, are the tech issues figured out? Like, is it pretty reliable?
Well, I don't watch it on the app. We actually switched to DirecTV so we can watch. Okay. Yeah, we stop.
You don't come hang a dish and everything. You were into it.
We stop our YouTube, and then we picked up YouTube a few years ago just for the Brewers.
Okay.
And then we ended up really liking it. Of course, now everybody's prices are going up, but we stop YouTube. We pick up DirecTV for 6 months during the baseball season. Then we stop that, go back to YouTube.
And now YouTube
That's what we've
TV
done.
has Sunday Ticket. They've got Sunday Ticket now too. If you're
jeepers!
I don't.
More sports. I don't know if I need that. Not sure how that'll go over at home.
Is Chris as big of a sports fan as you are?
She is actually. Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe not quite as fanatical as I am about it, but she loves sports as much as I do. Yeah. Okay. Yep. We'll be glued tonight. We'll be watching the game at 6 and then at 7:10 because it'll probably be by then after halftime, third quarter. Who cares who's playing? We'll go to go to the baseball game and start watching that. Nice. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's that's awesome to be able to. Then I mean, that keeps the conversations in the household going too. Like
we always have something to talk about. Yeah.
Or complain about, yell about.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Dang it. Yeah. God, what the hell is wrong with these guys? Yeah. Yeah, we hear there's lots of shouting from our sun porch during Brewers games lately.
So what else has retirement encompassed for you since you stopped? Because it's coming up on it's over a year now.
Over a year. Yeah. June 1st was a year. Yeah, I can't believe it.
Probably just a terrible
year. It flew by.
It
it really bit. It sucked. I just do what I want, when I want, how I want. It's really, really overrated. Not. It's funny because when I run into people that I haven't seen for a while, they always say, well, how do you like retirement? Like really serious, how do you like retirement? And I'll go, it's freaking awesome. Yeah. It's like the best thing that's ever happened to me. What do you mean? What's not to like? Yeah. I don't get, and they say, well, some people don't like it. And I'm like, well, then something's wrong with them. Yeah. They got bigger problems than what retirement brought. They had a problem before retirement. If they don't like retirement, they need to figure that out,
That's why I knew it was going to be successful for you. We had some conversations before you retired, and your frame of mind about it going into it was just in such a place of positivity and love. Like you were waiting.
Yeah. I was. So I kind of knew it was time. When you'll know too, way down the line when it's time. You just know when it's time. I mean, you've made career changes and you knew it was time. And sometimes,
absolutely.
Like we kind of talked about with Aaron Rodgers, sometimes you're ready, but it just doesn't happen on our time. You got to kind of wait for certain things to fall into place. But you're ready when they do. You're like, yes, here we go. Boom. Just like that.
Yeah.
But
I always found it. And then when people would ask you, what are you going to do? And pretty much your answer was, what does it matter?
Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever I want. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Everyone wants to know if you have this big major plan for your retirement. Are you going to travel? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And I'm like, I don't know.
We'll see.
I got to be retired for a while.
Yeah.
First, just let me feel it and get into it for a while. And that's what I did. I took about 5 months, and then I got a couple volunteer gigs that I do. One of them is I'm a companion sitter for Unity Hospice, which I really, really dig, and I get a lot out of. It's really. God,
that's such your style too. I guarantee you're so good at it.
Well, I hope I am. Thank you. Yeah. But I really do enjoy it. It's like a privilege and honor to be a part of the end of someone's life on Earth. I mean, it's like I sit there and I'm like, wow, I'm involved in this. I didn't know this person before, but now I'm a part of their end of life, and I keep that always in mind to try to make sure my part of it is as good as it can be, or whatever they need from me, I try to give to them,
Yeah.
And then I was, up until about a week ago, working as a volunteer ombudsman for the Board on Aging and Long-Term Care, which means ombudsman, I'd go into nursing homes, long-term care units, facilities all over here in Brown County, and visit with the residents, and just to make sure, take notes, make sure, like, does it look clean? Does it smell where it shouldn't smell?
Okay. Holding people accountable.
Yeah.
Good.
And then the best part was I'm a volunteer. I never had to do anything about it. I just reported to someone.
Yep.
And then that was it. Well, both those things together started to get to be a little too much, because I was spending a lot of time, because some of my hospice people are also in long-term care. Mm-hmm. So it got to be kind of tough. And I decided I wanted to give one of them up. And I decided the hospice one meant a little more to me than the other, because hospice I wanted to do since my parents both died of cancer and both used hospice. So it was something I always wanted to do because it was so helpful to our family. But now what I just did, which I'm very excited about, is I just signed up with the Lifelong Learners Institute through UW Green Bay. And you can take for $150 if you're 55 or over, I think it is. You can take up to 10 or 15 classes. Yeah, over a semester. So I signed up for 10. Now, not all of them are classes that meet over and over. Some of them are like a one-off tour, or like hikes in county parks, stuff like that. But I did take one class, you'll be surprised by this, Brad, called Current Affairs.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Who would have thought I'd do that?
There will be robust discussion in
Yes.
that class, my friend.
And it said something like that. Robust, what was the word? Respectful
Yes.
of each other discussions.
Yes.
Which will be hard for me, but I'm up for it. No, not really.
I wouldn't sell
Not
yourself
really.
short. You're
Not
very
really.
respectful. You can be forceful and respectful at the same time.
That's
It
true.
works.
You're right.
It
You're
works.
right. So that starts in September, all the different things. I'm going to take tours of like Sybil Hop School, Curative. I used to work at Sybil Hop, but it's so different now. I mean, it's been added on to, and I'm taking hikes through county parks on 3 different occasions. I'm going to go to like Maribel Caves one day with people. I mean, there's all these things you can choose from. It's really cool. And then in spring semester, you can choose from classes again.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, I didn't really know that much about it until I started talking to other retirees.
Yep.
And they talked about it. I'm like, what is that? And they told me, and I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to do hospice for my heart and my soul, and I'm going to do lifelong learning for my brain and the rest of it,
Yeah.
So I can still like go out and be somewhere and still be able to carry on conversations with people.
Yeah. As opposed, well, you meld into the people you
Because
spend
your brain
time
gets a little
with.
mushy after a while.
Yeah. Well, and that's 2 pretty heavy things too, right? But that, that's such a natural progression, because that probably scratches some of the itch that some of your career passions lived in. Like you were
Exactly.
a career helper in several different ways.
Yeah.
So like being able to do that of your own volition and time and energy, making your decisions is such
And that's
easy
it.
transition.
You hit it. That's it. It's like on your time and in your way. With hospice, it's such a great volunteer job, not only because it's enriching and fulfilling, but I can do it on my time.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that I see, I have 2 of them right now. I have to, I don't have to. I mean, but that's the requirement. I'm to see each of them once a week, but it doesn't have to be at a certain time or a certain day. I go when I can go. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any set routine where I have to be here every Monday at 2:00, because that's one thing I wanted to avoid at all costs. Now I did sign up for a class where I have to be there for 2 hours every other Tuesday, but now after over a year of being retired, I'm not going to mind that so
You can
much.
block out one spot.
Right. Yeah.
You got me on the calendar. I felt pretty important.
You've been on there for a while, and big letters too. I should have took a picture of it. It's in my phone, of course, but I have it on. We have one in our kitchen still that hangs on the wall so that we both can see each other's stuff. And it actually takes up the whole day because I wrote it so big. So if Chris had anything going on, she couldn't fit it in there because I wrote podcast at Brad's home, 1:30 in really big letters.
Nice.
Takes up the whole square.
I love it.
And put a little star by it.
I love it. We do the same. I think everybody has the fridge calendar, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I grew up with it. It's just something about it. I don't know. It's comforting, I guess.
Yeah. In the volunteer hospice thing, I have to assume like a different range of outcomes comes from that, right? Like how have the interactions differed? Have you had anybody that like was completely aloof and didn't want you there, or the complete opposite and ended up like kindred spirits?
Probably a little of both. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a woman who was just on the other side of becoming nonverbal, who when she was in a long-term care unit, and I can't say too many details about the people,
Yep.
But she didn't really want me to be there. So, the first few times I came, I did most of the talking and just tried to keep it low key. And sooner or later, she started warming up to me. And we got to be really pretty close. And because her family, she had a couple kids, or so, and I shouldn't even say that. They couldn't be there as much as maybe she would have liked because they were working, But she became nonverbal, but we were able then to communicate just with our eyes. And I could kind of know like what she was thinking. So I'd say, do you want me to do this? Would you like me to do that? Is this what you want? Would you like me to, tickle your neck? Would you like me to rub your arm? Would you like me to comb your hair? Stuff like that. So that was really cool. And I've also had a couple people that, had pretty severe dementia. And those are the really challenging ones, but I really enjoy it because in any given moment, you can be somebody different to them. Because some of them will go from 95 years old thinking they're waiting for their mom and dad to pick them up from wherever they think they are, to talking about their daughter, that they know they have a daughter. So it goes, and then sometimes like not knowing who I am, but they recognize my face because I've come so long now. The one guy I have, we're going into 7 months.
Wow.
So, and I just, this one's that one's gonna get me a little bit. I know that. That's the hardest part of this is that was
my next question.
You do get, my very first person I only saw once, and then that was it. But after that, I've had some longer term. The people I'm seeing now, I've seen one for 6 months and the other for 7. So those two are going to be a little tougher on me. That's the tough part of it. I mean, there's only one outcome here. I mean, we're all going to have the same one, right?
Right. We're all
nobody
chasing
gets
the
out
same
alive.
finish line. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just, if there's ever something, if anybody's listening that has ever thought about it, and you don't have to be retired to do it. It could be something, there's all kinds of things that hospice needs help with, but it could be a thing where maybe you do it for someone who only wants someone to visit on a weekend or at night. I mean, you have a young child and all that, not you, but other people that maybe are looking for a little something that they could do that would make them feel good and would be really super helpful to people going through it. Because everybody that has now cancer is affected almost, and it's not just cancer, it's all kinds of illnesses. I mean, congestive heart failure, cancer, Lou Gehrig's disease, all of these, Parkinson's, all of this stuff. I've had a little bit of all of these. Mm-hmm. You just need a break. The family needs a break once in a while. You have to get away from it. So it's just a really great thing you can do, even if it's just for an hour, that you give this person a break to either go shopping or just go get a cup of coffee, go with a friend, go in their room and take a nap, go down in the basement and cry, whatever they need to do and can't do, because they're grieving and trying to take care of this person at the same time.
Right.
But,
and by that scenario by the time that comes, the hope is gone usually.
Yeah. Some people actually, they just came out with a study. Some people actually live longer once they get in hospice. Usually hospice is, a doctor says you can go into hospice when a doctor says and signs a sheet of paper that says chances are it's going to be 6 months or less.
Okay.
That you are, the morbidity it's coming, you're going to die. There's no options, right? But some people have gone up to a year in hospice, you know?
Yeah.
Especially some people have gone into hospice and then gone back to palliative care because they got better, like a little better, where they're like, well, I think we need to put them back into a different program now where they're just getting, care, but they don't need to be in hospice right now. So it's real interesting. And I think especially people that are lonely and don't have a lot of family, once they get that attention and all the care that they get from hospice, they do start to improve. It's amazing.
Well, the mind is a wild thing. A wild thing. Just how we respond to not only different scenarios that we find ourselves in, but like the different kind of actions and involvements that come with those, and how we like respond to those things differently. Even like, you read some of the studies about the work that they're doing between psilocybin and dementia and the differences that can be made and stuff. It's too bad that some of that stuff hasn't been able to be explored for a little while, just because of that reason, like how our brain reacts to things that aren't, whatever you want to call them, that aren't physical or aren't like aren't doctoral,
right? That aren't part of our wiring.
Yes,
I mean that you can see.
Yep.
That are part of it, but not the stuff you can see.
Yeah.
The amygdala and the this and the that in your brain, the pons, I don't know, all the parts I learned in biology one time. I can't remember. I don't even know if those are part of that. That might be something else I'm talking about. Maybe that's parts of the kidney. I don't know.
About the only thing I know is from the water boy, the medulla oblongata.
Yeah, there you go, oblongata. That's it. Yep. That's a pretty important part, actually. It's amazing. I mean, it's just. I sit there and this person is going from, 50 years ago to current to 30 years ago to even more years ago, talking about World War II, talking about this, talking about that, and then also kind of being a little bit in today. It's just like, wow. But, I have to tell you the one thing that I hear over and over and over from all those patients so far has been, I want to go home. Every one of them says, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And I always say, you will go home. You're going to go home. I promise you.
Yeah.
Because they are, they're going to go to a different home, not the one they lived in, but they are going to go home.
Right.
Or somewhere, they're not going to be there in that situation forever.
They're going to see what's on the other side of the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably not surprising, right? It's like I think it's everybody's ultimate sanctuary. When it eventually comes our time knocking on the door, you hope that it's in a place that you're comfortable, and that's home. Yep. Generally. Yep. So that's probably par for the course. Yeah. That's heavy stuff. And you've been doing that for what, 6 months? That. No, don't be sorry. It's great.
Actually, about 9 months now I've been doing it.
9 months.
Yeah. Yep. It's just, I had a training and you go through a training and all that because they give you a chance to kind of find out, do you really think this is going to be something that you're going to be comfortable with? So they, you go through a lot of stuff in training and they tell you a lot of things because it's not for everybody, I mean, you can't sit there and burst into tears when you're sitting with someone or, and it takes a lot of patience, especially when you're with the, people, like when you ask them questions and all they say is, I don't know, because they don't. I don't know. What did you do last week? I don't know. Right. What did you do this morning? Did you eat breakfast? I don't know. Because they really don't, So you have to really be able to carry on sometimes one-sided conversations, but still connecting with the person. So I've been learning a lot. I'm not saying I was really good at it to start. I mean, I've learned a lot and I'm still learning, still learning.
It's such it's a thing that I think we're all wired for, but not repeatedly, right? It's like a place we dig to probably, but they probably reveled in your background for somebody that would want to do that. Just because of the things you've done, you had kind of a step forward.
I think it did help me really when they looked at my application.
Yeah.
And I got hooked up to both of those through a volunteer expo that they had at the Resch last October. in the new Rush, whatever it's called, the Expo, whatever Rush, everything's a Rush something, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did the Rushes sponsor this wall right here?
It's in the big building by Lambeau. No, we're actually going to bleep that out until they pay the sponsorship fee.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No. Man.
I'll sponsor this piece of wood right here.
Sweet. You can write your name on it. Kathy, how cool of an idea would that be?
Oh, yeah.
To have
everybody that comes in writes their name
everybody that comes in right on the wall.
Wow, I'm here during a revelation.
That is, I might have to explain.
Brad, look at the big brain on you today.
No, you came up with
Notice
the idea.
I said today.
Today.
Qualifier. Just kidding. You know I love you.
Yeah, you too. It's so good to see you.
You too. But you just look so fresh-faced. I like it, though. It's okay. But you know I like the beard. So are you going to grow it for hunting or not?
I don't know. We'll see. I never
All
did
right.
it specifically for hunting.
That's true. You never did. You always had beards like off and on. Like one day you'd come in, it'd be there. The next day I'd be finally at the end of the day, I'd look at you and think, what is different? Oh my God, he shaved his beard off.
You want to know what one of the main deciding factors is? Is humidity, surprisingly or not. Because when you shave
bet.
when it's humid, you get razor burn a lot easier. So like it's kind of like a cliche thing that people grow beards in the winter and then shave in the summer. If you noticed, I was always kind of opposite.
You were.
I would be clean shaven in the winter.
And shaving or not shaving in the summer.
Yeah, because I don't love shaving in the summer because it's always humid here. Like we live.
I
in
don't
the
either. Look at these legs.
Look at those things. I mean, we live in the humid capital of the world, and it's like,
Today the dew point today is like 68, even though it's only 70 some degrees out. It's cool, but it's still very thick and sticky out there.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of humidity at all. Zero fan. Yeah.
No, we were.
Although
always
I've lived
on
in
the
it
same-
all my life. What's that about?
Yeah.
I hate it, but I've lived here my entire lifetime. You know, I had plenty of chances to move away, but it really means I really do love it. I love the changing seasons.
You said you moved some when you were young, right? Like you kind of moved around where were your first radio gigs? They weren't here, right?
No, my first one was in Blue Earth, Minnesota, my hometown, at a little AM station, KBEW, Blue Earth.
I remember that. That's such an interesting motto or like call sign. What do you even call that? The station
The
name?
earth's so rich, the city grows.
Is that what they said?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not true though.
Is it still?
The population has gone down quite a bit since Walmart left town.
Ooh, is it still in the air?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
AM 1560, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't believe I just remembered that. Wow, I think that's
and
it.
So that was your first one.
That was my first gig.
probably
That's where I learned radio, actually.
Okay.
I never went to radio school. I got a job there as a receptionist after I dropped out of college. Another whole story for another podcast. I worked as a receptionist pretty soon. They had an opening on Sunday afternoons on the Big Band Show. Asked me if I'd want to try it. I said, sure, I'll give it a try. Did that. They let me start talking on the air a little bit. Lots of mentoring along the way. And then at some point, our afternoon drive guy left and to go be a stuntman. And they asked if I was interested. And I said, sure. And so that's sort of, and then also during all that time, I also had to write news. I had to give news. I had to sell radio ads. I had to do a little bit of everything because, it's a tiny 3,000, 3,200 people town, county seat. So that's where the radio station was, I mean, I had to read markets, pork bellies, up 24 live cattle, feeder cattle, all of that stuff. I did all of it, a little bit of everything. So I did that for 2.5 years. So I really think of that as that was my school. And then from there, I went to St. James, Minnesota, and had my own morning show at a brand new radio station that they started there. And from there, I went to Mason City, Iowa.
Started at a brand new stick. That would be interesting.
Yeah, it was. Well, and the guy was a nutcase that owned it, so it was really effed up along the way. I mean, it was a cluster. It really was. But, I got paid, so... And then the guy who owned the station that I started at in my hometown, Paul Hedberg, who was a big name in radio in Minnesota, owned stations in Iowa. And he called me up one day and said, hey, I just bought a station in Mason City, Iowa. Would you be interested? And I so badly wanted to get out of St. James because of other things that I jumped at it. So I went out to Mason City, Iowa, and worked there 2.5 years, and then ended up. It's another story. I don't even want to go into that right now, but I ended up in Green Bay from there.
Those are the best stories.
I know. Well, okay, let me just say this. I met someone at a circus that was going through town. And that someone was from this area and ended up bringing a tape of mine to people at Midwest Broadcasting.
Yep. And
they called and said, I came here. I never visited Green Bay. I just took the job without ever coming here. And then I came to Green Bay in 1986, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought for sure it was just going to be a stop along the way, because my goal at that time in radio, of course, was to work in a major market, because that's what most people want to do.
Yep.
And
Green Bay is a great stepping stone.
It is.
City.
I mean, for everybody. For
Yeah.
TV, you see it all the time. All these TV reporters, the good ones,
Yep.
are gone within 3, 4, 5, 6 months. You
Yep.
know. I had a couple opportunities, like in Milwaukee and Chicago, but most of them were for traffic reporting. You know, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And but I ended up calling Green Bay home, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time you came here, your air checks had to be phenomenal. Like,
I listen back to them now, and if I even have one, I have in the past listened to old cassettes, and I just cringe when I listen to it. But
if it's too far ago, yeah.
Yeah, I
but
kinda go,
at
"Oh,
the time, they were probably killer.
Well, for the time,
Yeah.
probably, because there weren't a lot of women in radio at that time. There just weren't a lot of them.
Yeah.
And any women that were in radio usually got out as soon as they started having kids and that kind of thing. So
Yeah. It definitely is a good old boys club at that time, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely it was. Yeah, I had to play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole way. The whole way. Even after I was here, I did a little bit too.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
So how did that work along the way? Like, when were you out that whole time? Did everyone know you were gay at that time? And like,
well, not in actually in Blue Earth, my hometown, they did not. There was only certain people that did. I mean, I was not out. I wasn't even accepting of myself at that time. I was still
you were still
jumping back and forth. Yeah, a little bit. And then once I got to Green Bay, in St. James, I had a girlfriend, and most people knew about it. It was a small town too, and it did, I think, it didn't go over well with a lot of people there. And then once I came to Green Bay, I really started to. That's when I actually came out to my parents and everything. So, but on the air, everyone at the station knew, who I worked with for the most part. After a while, it took a while.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through the whole getting asked out and having to get out of it every time, and going out to events with listeners and. Saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom," and then never come back.
Right.
Why does Kathy never come back when she says she's going to the bathroom?
Well,
and the guys would just go, "Oh, dude," or they'd say, "Kathy went to the bathroom like 10 minutes ago," and they'd say, "Dude, she's not coming back."
Yeah. Not for you. Not coming back for you.
So it was hard, I have to say, because I did not like, and it wasn't like I was pretending anything. But I didn't like not being totally who I was on the air. And that's part of the reason it was probably more of a bigger part of the reason I got off radio than anything, was I just didn't want to keep not pretending, I don't even know what to say, just, like lying by omission, kind of. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And there was actually a lot of people in the LGBTQ community who weren't very happy with me. If I was out at a gay bar, especially in my 30s, people would get after me once in a while and just say, "Well, we don't listen because, you don't ever say anything about your girlfriend or your lifestyle and blah, blah, blah." And I'd be like, "Hey, this is my living. I'm the one, I'm trying to make a living. I have to do what I have to do, to make a living. And, if you were in my shoes, are you sure you wouldn't do the same thing?" Which would always make them think a little bit. But most of them were people that were so out that they probably were out when they were born, so at that time. But it was hard. I wish if I could go back and do it over, I wished I would have done it differently.
Yeah.
And I guess just say consequences be damned. If I couldn't work in radio because of that, then I would have found something else to do.
That's so easy to say, though, when you get to a place of comfort.
Well, right. I can say it now. I mean, because I wasn't. I mean, it took me a long time to accept my own gayness, to be okay with it. Because like I've always told people, who wants to, especially then, but now it's probably even more so, not just the gays, but people that are trans that are going through all of it, like we did 30 years ago or 20 years ago, where why would you wake up one day and go, hey, I think I'll be a social pariah and have to hide most of my life and not talk about things like other people do because they might not like me and maybe physically wanting to hurt me or, leave me out of things. Yeah, that sounds like a great way to spend my lifetime.
Yeah.
Like I always tell people, it is not a choice. Yes, nowadays people can make those kind of choices and do. There's fluidity, there's all this stuff, But then you didn't just say, I think, you know what? Men piss me off. I'm going to be gay for maybe a couple months. I mean, yeah, anybody can do that, but it's not how it works. I think I knew I was gay when I was a little kid. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to call it. Actually, as a teenager, I thought I was maybe nutty, crazy because of my feelings, because nobody talked about that stuff. In a small town in the mid-'70s, early 70s. And anytime you heard something about gay people, it was always very derogatory, Like, oh, those dykes, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd see those people and I'd think, well, I don't look like them. I don't dress like them, so I must not be like them. So what's wrong with me? So it was not a great fun time for the first 10 to 15 years when I was coming into it, Not that I didn't have fun, because I did. I had a lot of fun, but mentally it was a struggle. I think it's a lot behind. I really think it's a lot, not because. Well, I've had melanoma twice, stage 4, the last time, and I think my cancer, not only because I was a redhead and had a predisposition towards it, but also because of the stress that I had in my life. Because when you're gay or anything different, black, brown, all of it, when you're ever not the societal norm, you walk around with a level of stress every single day. Every single day, you have a level of stress. Especially
when in areas of, perceived or potential discomfort, where you add that, all of that you just said, on top of being ending up in a career where you're a public figure because you're good at it.
Absolutely.
And so that's an added amount. And then on top of being a public figure, you're in a place that's been ruled by the good old boys club.
Yep.
Talk about a trifecta of just tough things.
Yeah. And you know how I did it?
No.
I drank a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I drank a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Too much.
Yeah.
Really at times. But it was really what got me through. And I don't advise that as a way to deal with things. Absolutely not. But yeah, it wasn't real fun. Yeah, because that's exactly what it was. Because I loved my job, and I was so afraid of being who I was on the air. Because especially in southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, and then Brown County, Green Bay, Wisconsin, we know what it's like. It's not as conservative as it once was, but it's still pretty conservative. Just look at elections and stuff. You see, it's still there. There's a pretty strong conservatism. Wow, I can't even say it. That is there. So yeah, you get a little nervous. Now I'm at such a point of comfort in my life. Like I am who I am, and I want my spinach, but I don't care what anybody thinks about me, my anything. There's once I think you turn 50, you start getting that where you're like, who you are, what you like, what you don't like, that time now is becoming less than more. So you go, what? This is me. Like the TV show, This Is Us. This is me.
Yeah.
You don't have to like me. You don't, because you know what? I don't have to like you either. And we don't have to spend time together. When you're at work, you have to spend time with certain people. But you just I came to this natural point of comfort as I got older. And I think more self-confident too. It comes with, if you have any self-esteem issues at all, that carries over into so many things. I wasn't very good at relationships for a really long time. And that a lot of it was really was me.
Well, and finding your person changes that perspective a lot too, because it makes that comfort come out. And now, I mean, you and Chris have over 20 years together, right?
Yeah, will be 24.
24 years.
24 years.
So
Can't even believe it.
Yeah, time flies, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
I mean, I
crazy.
met her when I was 15, obviously. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to say that earlier when you said you had to be, what'd you say, the
Don't
over
show the lines.
over 55 was the thing for the UWGB thing? I was
Yeah.
going to say, well, they must have made an exception.
oh,
to
you
let
should
in.
have. I would have come over there and kissed you.
But yeah, finding your person like that changes life's
Everything.
dynamic too, because
Oh,
then
yeah.
it's so much easier to just not throw caution to the wind or that, but like just be comfortable with who you are and what
Because you
do.
have someone you know is going to love you no matter what.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who
Who knows all of you
Yeah.
and still wants to be with you.
they already know you're batshit crazy and they just stick around. So it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it is because it's a huge comfort thing.
Yeah.
It is because I mean I didn't meet the love of my life till I was 39 years old. I tried real hard to though before that. Every relationship I thought this is it, this is the one, which was the problem.
Yeah.
Because I grew up, again, I'm a small town girl. All I ever wanted was to meet someone, get married or not, but have a life together with someone and just live the white picket fence. That's all I ever wanted. I'm no different than anybody else really that way. I just, I remember as a little girl when I'd play with other kids and that, and we'd talk about getting married someday and all that. And I'd always say, yeah, I'm going to get married and I'm going to have 3 kids and I'm going to be a school teacher and all this and that. And then they'd always say, other girls would go, yeah, my husband's going to have blonde hair and he's going to look like, Ken or whoever, Johnny West, for those of you who don't know, that was a cowboy toy from really long ago. Look it up. It's really
didn't know
cool.
that one.
Really stiff. But I would always say, they'd say, well, what's your husband going to look like? And I'd go, I don't know. Because I never pictured that part of my thing ever, even as a teenager. As I pictured my life, I never saw the husband, which I know why, but at the time it was like, it just wasn't there, ever.
And like you said, as a part of where it wasn't dialogue that you had heard or it wasn't things that you were aware of, it's just kind of the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, it was like, yeah, it's genetic. It was born in there. And it seems like every family who says, oh, we don't have any gay people in our family, I would I beg to differ. I'm pretty sure you do. You just don't know it for some reason. Probably because they're not comfortable telling you.
Yeah.
Or feel, like they can't.
Mm-hmm.
I tell that to people all the time, I didn't have too many people I was comfortable telling, not even my parents for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually were wonderful. My whole family was super supportive. They just said, you're our daughter. We love you. My brother and sister said, you're our sister. We love you. Nothing's changed. And it was true because nothing did change.
Yeah.
Just who I brought home.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all.
And it's right. You said that they're usually your family get-togethers are usually pretty rambunctious.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's a good thing it was Chris because she
Yes.
could take it all in.
Oh yeah, and they all fell in love with her because of that.
Yeah.
She was just so even keeled, didn't get riled up about anything they'd say or do. Just kind of, Yeah, I don't know how she does it. My family is all kind of like me. We get together and we all talk at the same time, but we all answer each other too because we, for some reason, can hear what each other is saying, and all the partners of each one of us all sit together and just shake their heads. Like, how did we end up with these people?
Yeah. So Green Bay was then obviously the end of your radio journey. What that
20 years total, but I think in Green Bay, 86 to 2000 is 16 years. No, 14
Sure.
here.
So that's like the longest run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Of anything I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not now, because now I've been out of radio for 20 years.
Yeah.
I've been out longer now than I was in radio, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then was it 2 stations in the Green Bay area?
Well, Actually, the first one I worked at was a country station, a little AM country station that doesn't exist anymore, called WGEE,
Okay.
which now has a call letters, I think it's 1360 AM. I don't know what they're, W something. And then it was Star 98, which went through different name changes over the years. You know, every time a new consultant came in, they called it something different. But it was 98.5 FM. Was there for quite a few years and worked with Doug Kaufman, who was my morning partner. Then he went over to the sports station, WDUZ, that was owned at that time by Laird Broadcasting, but then Cumulus bought all that out.
Yep.
So when that happened, I worked with a couple other people. There wasn't the chemistry. So I ended up going back to Midwest.
You had a really good run with Doug, right?
I did.
That was a
yep.
great show.
And then Doug and I, after I left and went back to Midwest and did my own morning show on a light station there, we ended up being reunited again about 3 years later. And then that's where I finished my career. So Doug and I worked together 2 different times. Yeah, it was cool. We just were lucky. We had the chemistry, you know. It just worked. And Doug was very supportive of me and who I was and very protective of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
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 And so then leading up to the end of that, talking about making your transition, kind of similar to what I did, you were a returning learner as an adult and then completely changed paths. Sybil Hopp was your first job post-radio, right?
Yep. I went back to school at NWTC and got a associate's degree as a speech language pathologist assistant. And then the DPI would not give that position licensure. There was lots of reasons for it, but I was able to get a job at Sybil Hopp because of that degree that I had, because so many kids there have speech language therapy, challenges. So I went to Sybil Hopp, fell in love with it, just loved it there. The staff, the students. I didn't know I had that propensity to work with special needs populations, until I did. And I just loved it. I mean, I probably would have stayed there for my whole career, but I did need to make more money because I was, a late degree getter and all
we
that.
We all know we did.
Yeah.
Nobody gets rich in radio. Not around here.
I didn't even have they didn't even have IRAs or 401ks until I was like 32. I didn't have any of that. I spent all my money. And it was great, but not great now. Now it is. But anyway, so I worked there for about 8 or 9 years, I believe. And then during that time, I knew I had great benefits there because I actually worked for CISA through the county. I had great benefits, but the hourly pay it just wasn't gonna. I would had to work till I was 70, and I just didn't want to do that. So I went back to UWGB to get my bachelor's degree finished. And got that. And, people say, what's your degree in? Psychology and human development. And then, of course, everybody said, well, what are you going to do with that? And I said, whatever I want, So, and that's what happened. I got a job as a case manager for disadvantaged youth down in Manitowoc, through a company out of Madison. And I worked at the job center for about a year. And then there was a job opening in the accommodations or the disability services department at NWTC. And long story short, got hired there. Worked there 2.5 years. There was a cutback at the college, one of the last ones I had, and 2 people from student services had to be let go. And last in, first out. Mm-hmm. Myself and another person from the counseling department who had been there for quite a while, a lot longer than I had been there. So, but fortunately, in the same meeting that they were telling me this, they also said, here's 3 openings that we have that we'd like you to apply for. And I looked them over, and Career Services was one of them. And I love that department. I knew of our boss, and I knew people in there, had become friends of mine. And so long story short, I say that a lot. Long story short, and I'm never short. I'm never short with my stories. That's what's so stupid about it. I always say long story, long story short, not. I'm going to go on and on about it. I got hired and worked there for 6-7 years, I think, in that department.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened, and I wasn't planning on retiring when I did, but everything changed. That changed everything. When we came back after it, it just wasn't the same feel that we had before we went in. The numbers were down as far as like people on campus. Not that numbers are down. I mean, they are everywhere, but people weren't taking as many classes. There weren't as many students on campus because a lot of people then were now taking classes from home, and working from home part of the time. So there wasn't quite the, what I want to say, energy on campus that I really thrived on. It just wasn't quite the same for me. And I just realized I wasn't enjoying it as much as I had pre-pandemic. So I went from thinking I'm going to work till I'm 66 to, a week after I turned 62, I retired. Boom,
oh, so
just
you
like that.
fast-forwarded that decision. I didn't know that.
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
It wasn't really my plan until the pandemic. Like I said, it changed it for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I just started thinking, I don't know if I want to do this like this.
Okay.
This isn't really kind of what I signed up for.
That part I didn't know about. So
Yeah.
how long was that transition period? Like how long from the time where you thought maybe retirement is an option till you said, yep, I'm retiring?
Probably about 4 months.
Okay, pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty quick. Because my partner, Chris, was already retired. So that sort
had
of
to play a
edged
part
it
in
along.
it too,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I won't pretend it didn't. Because, I knew that I would give her at least a year to be retired without me around. And, just because she had a high stressful, management type positions all through her career. And so she needed to. Then the pandemic for her too changed how she was doing her job. And she just decided there was some changes at her work. And she was like, I just don't want to go through all of this stuff again. And I said, retire. So she did. Mm-hmm. And I let her have a little over a year or so, year and a half almost. And when you come home and dinner's made every night, that's great. But after a while, it'd be more great to be home, preparing the dinner yourself because you weren't working all day.
Yeah.
The shine sort of wore off. And of course that was part of it.
Yeah.
Just that then, because if one person's retired and you're not, after a while, this person wants to do this stuff and go here and do this, and you're holding up the show over here. Mm-hmm. Well, I only have 5 vacation days that I can use for that, and I can only use this many. And well, take your sick days. Oh, you can only take so many. Then you got to have a doctor's note. It just, it starts to get a little bit wonky.
And you are kind of at in addition to being at a point in life where you're comfortable in your own skin, you're also at a point, like some of the stuff you've been through with the melanoma and things like that, where at least from an outward perspective of mine, looks like you're not at a place where you take those minutes for granted. So
right. That was also a huge part of it. Yes.
When, your partner's at home and she's retired and you're thinking, I could be spending these hours with her as opposed to working, that has to weigh in on it too.
It did, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. I really should have. That was probably more than anything was my health.
And we'd be lying if it wasn't Clark too.
Well, yeah. You have a dog like Clark. You want to be there with him, Make sure he's not ripping up the house while your partner who's retired is in the garage all day making furniture. Like, what about the dog? Somebody's got to pay attention to the dog. I guess I'll have to retire.
You said you're the Clark disciplinarian of the household, right? Chris is the disciplinarian, and you're the one that lets Clark get away with everything.
Yes. I'm the one that feeds Clark like this.
Oh, goodness.
So, how was your day? Yeah, really? Oh.
Oh, from the table?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know, big no. And I know better, but
once
he
you
looks
do it,
at me. He looks at me, and I just, you're so cute. Come on, little baby. You're starving to death.
Yeah, it's starving.
Yeah.
Doesn't have an ounce of meat left.
You
on
need
his
some
bones.
donuts, because that's good for you. Yeah. Bad.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, sure. My mortality stared me in the face. I got told I had maybe 6 to 18 months at one point.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Okay. All right. Now what? I started, making some plans and writing things down. And luckily I got into a clinical trial that obviously worked really well for me and had a great surgeon and vascular surgeon who got this complicated, messed up tumor out of my body without too much damage, and now it'll be 10 years this November. Oh, yeah.
Man. So it was a clinical trial that you were lucky enough to be involved in.
Yep.
Wow.
And it worked for me. I know they don't use that treatment anymore, but it, obviously worked well for me. They have even better ones now. So I don't even, part of me is like, if I got cancer back, I just look at it as like a chronic illness now. Like, there'll be new treatments, and there are for melanoma. They've made great strides. Now, the only thing that would mess it up is if it was in your brain or something. That's a pretty tough one to, overcome. Yeah. But, they just can keep extending. It's just, I look at it as a chronic illness where they could just keep extending my life and extending my life and extending my life. So I've already had a lifetime more than some people have had already, So, I don't worry about it at all anymore.
Is that possibility something they tell you about? Like, is it something they told you then? Like, are you at more of a propensity to have it again or something?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Like your odds or the percentage chances of getting it back again, or this or that. But I just quit worrying about it, only to the fact that I know life can change in an instant, like truly. So that's why, too, I thought, do I want to work till I'm 66 and then all of a sudden be unhealthy or find out I have cancer and I'm going to die in 3 months? Then I'm really going to be ticked off. And I was like, no, that's not what I want. That's not how I want my story to end, know?
And that's a good friend of both of ours that just happened to. But in some ways, I think that's how he may have wanted it to end.
Absolutely, because he loved working so much and teaching and all that so much that, I think he probably was almost forced by family and everybody to like, you got to quit and
even
go
consider retiring.
Yeah, you got to kind of think about it. And then as soon as he makes up his mind he's going to do it, he basically died before he hit his retirement date even.
Yep.
Yeah. I just, for him, I think I tell myself that was okay. And then I think, I had a conversation with him about it actually on the phone, and he was okay with it.
He was.
Yeah. He was okay with it. He met it head on and he was okay with it. And I said, I totally get it. Good for you. Just make sure you keep yourself comfortable.
Unsurprisingly almost, right?
Right.
He was such a moving person because of that almost attitude. That attitude that he had, that it's unsurprising that he met that thing face to face, and seemingly within a week he came at me with an adage that was just like, unbelievable. It's like, oh my goodness, like only you could think of that. And a week after someone told you you're dying. Yeah. Only you would come to me and say that.
Yeah. Yeah. He was just a remarkable person. Yeah. And I feel like, he came into everyone's life that he came into for a reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll never forget the one time, and it was joking at the time. It was probably maybe a year and a half before he found out the bad news that he was dying and stuff. He kind of joked to me one time. He said, "You know what, bud?" He was calling me bud. He said, "You know what, bud? They're gonna have to pry my hands off this keyboard."
Yep, I heard him say stuff like that too. They're gonna have to pry me out of here, because I'd always say, "Andy, how old are you?" And he'd say whatever his age was, 70s, and I'd just be like, "God, how do you do it?" He said, "I love it. This is what gives me my energy." Yep. They're gonna have to pry me out of here. They're gonna have to carry me out of here. And practically they almost had to. So, but I always think of him fondly now, because I think he probably was okay. He told me he had a full, wonderful life. Yeah. He said I have no regrets. Yeah. I've had a great life. What's there to complain about? Yep. And I tell people that too. If I fell over right now on the floor and nobody in here knew how to save me and give me CPR, they'd be okay with me. I mean, well, maybe not okay, but
I'd still wish I knew CPR. But.
Yeah, I still wish you did. But it'd be okay, because I've had a great life. I've done lots of things. I don't want for anything. I don't need anything more. Right now I'm just enjoying my life. It's like bonus time. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's all a bonus.
You want to know what's weird? You want to know, I bet, who else feels like that right now? Aaron Rodgers.
It's bonus time.
It's bonus life. It's bonus life.
Yeah, it is for him.
Absolutely.
He's going to be 40 years old, and he's still playing football. Mm-hmm. And he has a chance to be an MVP again. Mm-hmm. If he thinks he's with the right people now, and he has the weapons that he always wanted to have. Yeah, it's bonus time for him. Yeah, good segue back into football. I like that. I loved it. It was awesome.
How could we not
bring it back around to Aaron Rodgers?
Yes. How could you and I not sandwich our conversation with sports, some of the heaviest, most awesome things that you could ever talk about, and then end it with sports. And probably some funny shit.
Go go, Pat, go.
That's totally our style.
Yeah, that's
totally
true.
our style.
That's true. That's very funny. That was good. Nice segue. Way to tie that. What's it called? Piggybacking or whatever? Piggyback? I don't know.
I don't know. I like segue.
Yeah. When they have a commercial on and it's like 15 seconds and then they go to another one and then they come back with another 15-second bookends.
Oh, bookends.
You bookended that. Mm-hmm. Good job.
Bookended it with sports.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was very good. You old bookender, you. Brad the bookender.
It was so good to talk with you. Thank you, Kathy.
You too, Brad. It was a pleasure.